What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. Now that I finally caught up on Arrow, it's time to do The Flash. So this is going to be the first half of season one, first 9 episodes, um, ending with mid-season finale. And gotta say, I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely a bit different than Arrow was, obviously. Um, Mainly just because the tone is a lot different. Uh, where where Arrow was very dark and dismal, and it felt like everything was just so. Oh, I gotta kill people to save the city, and my dad died. It felt very dark, and the jokes were limited, few and far between. The Flash is very light-hearted, in comparison. It's still not, like when I think about really light-hearted shows, I think Supergirl. That is it's very light. A lot of jokes. People are all smiles. Hardly any dour expressions. So it's still got some dark episodes. It's got a couple dark moments, but overall much lighter than Arrow. So it's somewhere in between. And that being said, it really does kind of take that silly sort of comic book feel and make a good show out of it. You've got Cisco pretty much every single episode coming up with a new name for the metahuman that they're fighting that episode. How is that not like just pure comic book stuff? Like you're fighting all these bad guys, and all Cisco's really worried about is, oh, what's the name gonna be? Whenever Arrow comes in for the next to last episode, like Cisco and Diggle are sitting there talking about, oh, I bet I bet Oliver wins. He's got more experience. Well, he's just got a bow and arrow. He can run so fast. I bet Flash. So it's just little stuff like that makes me think this show knows that the concept is pretty ridiculous. Whereas in Arrow, it's still a ridiculous concept when you really think about it. A guy ends up on an island for 5 years, and during those 5 years, saves the world like 3 times, comes back a badass with a bow and an arrow, and taking down villains with a bow and an arrow. That concept is ridiculous, but it's a bit more grounded in reality. Whereas a man getting struck by lightning because of a particle accelerator explosion that caused a lightning storm and struck him and gave him the ability to run at super speed. Come on, that's not even close to realistic. And they know that, and they use that to their advantage. And honestly, I mean, two of the best Marvel movies that have come out in recent year, Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man, because they knew they had ridiculous premises, they took full advantage of it and made it so much fun. The Flash does that too. They don't take complete advantage of it. At times, it can still get a bit serious. They have those moments where, when he's dealing with the Reverse Flash, when he's dealing with the death of his mother, when he's dealing with his dad, they do take a very serious tone in those moments, which is needed. So, this show really does a good job of that. Um, but going through kind of the list of episodes, the first one, it was a pretty good way to start off the show, with a bit of narration, him talking about that, and then kind of showing what happened leading up to the night where the particle accelerator exploded and he got his powers, which we also saw at the end of Arrow season 2, I think. I want to say it was season 2, anyway. So it was very well done in that respect. You got to see him kind of, the relationship that he had with Iris before he got struck. You got to meet the jerk cop that it was just so obvious that whenever he got out of the coma, Iris was going to be dating him because she's like, oh, that's pretty boy. That's what my dad calls him, but he is pretty. I'm just like, that was a very subtle hint to where that's going. So get introduced to some of the characters surrounding Barry's life, and then wakes up from his coma. He can run super fast. He's experiencing all of this. They experienced their first metahuman. Can't remember who it was. One second. Crap. I can't believe I forgot who it was. Right. It was a guy that they had actually been trying to catch before he got struck by lightning. The police. He was a CSI technician. They were going after this guy, and then he's flying away in a plane, and he gets hit by the particle accelerator wave that came out, and everybody thinks he's dead. And then he comes back. He's a metahuman who can control the weather. So we get introduced to the concept of metahumans that got affected by this particle accelerator, and from there, the story continues. In every single episode, it's discovering another metahuman. It's buried, going through some moral, and in that respect, I think part of why I enjoy the show so much is that it kind of feels like a callback to some of the old superhero cartoons. Like when you think about Spider-Man, the old Spider-Man. When you think about, actually, best thing to compare it to is Teen Titans. Teen Titans was a great show. I'm not talking about Teen Titans Go. That show can go jump off a cliff. The original Teen Titans, every single episode had a bad guy to fight. They, had to discover clever ways to beat him. And sometimes, even if there was a bad guy, sometimes that wasn't the main focus. The main focus was one of the characters maybe discovering something more about themselves. Maybe, trying to work out a problem that's causing them to not be able to fight as well. Every episode had a good moral that helped the characters learn more about themselves and about each other. It was really handled well. This show kind of feels like a callback to that, which I love, because it feels like every episode, yeah, there's a metahuman to fight. Yeah, he's doing something bad. We need to go stop him, capture him, whatever. But in the end, Barry learns something. One of the characters learns something. There's a moral at the end that helps these characters grow. And even though, it's kind of weird saying, yeah, it kind of feels like a kid's show, at the same time, Teen Titans was such a well-handled and well-written show as far as episode after episode. It was fun, it was energetic, and at the end, you learn something. The characters learn something. That's the same situation here. It's exactly the same thing, and I really enjoy that. But going to a broader picture, the story on a whole is pretty interesting to follow. I mean, you've got, Barry's mom dies when he's little. He sees a man in yellow, or he thinks yellow, running around and super fast. There's lightning everywhere, and his mom dies from that bolt of lightning, whatever it was. And then his dad ends up getting arrested for it because, his fingerprints were on a knife because he was trying to save her life. And so he gets arrested because there's nobody else there. And nobody believes Barry because he's a little kid. They think he just had a dream or something. So ever since that day, he's been trying to find proof that this man exists, this man in yellow exists. So once he gets his powers, they kind of realize, oh, well, what if, somebody was behind it all? What if somebody had the same powers as me? And so through that, Joe, his adopted father, the cop, trying to kind of help him discover the same thing. And I guess the one nitpick I do have is a lot of it feels like Arrow on repeat. You've got the family member that's not a family member. In Arrow, it was Diggle, who knows the secret identity almost from the first, in this one, it was the very first episode. In Arrow, it was a few episodes before Diggle found out. But it kind of feels like the same thing. Like, Diggle knew Oliver's identity, and he covered for him several times. In this show, Joe knows Barry's identity, and he helps cover for him several times. You've got a family member who doesn't know that, the main character is trying to hide from. In this case, it's Iris. In Arrow, it's Thea. I have no doubt that Iris will figure it out eventually, or Barry will tell her, something. You've got the cop who is hell-bent on trying to capture the main character because they think they're dangerous. In Arrow, it was Quentin Lance. This one, it's Eddie. And then you've got a team helping him. And in some respects, it was really feeling like Arrow at times because there was narrating going on. They were doing flashbacks. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm watching Arrow, just more fun. But they did stop the flashbacks. He still narrates from time to time, but it's only at the beginning. So yeah, I think they're handling it very well, and you know I'm excited to see where the story goes from here because overall they've got a really good premise. I guess if I do have one problem with the main story itself, is that they really made it very obvious about Dr. Wells from the very beginning. And one of the things that I don't like about shows is whenever they have a trump card to play and they play it way too soon. In Supergirl, in Arrow, and now in The Flash, for some reason, the very first episode, there's a main character that you know, and then you find out something that they could have kept a mystery. If they revealed it later, it would have been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, that. In Supergirl, you find out that the main villain that is attacking Earth, you find out that it's Supergirl's aunt. Like, that is the very first thing you find out about this. You could have found out that it was a woman. You could have just found out, oh, it's another Kryptonian. I wonder what they're going to do. And then later in the season, it's like, oh my gosh, it's Supergirl's aunt. That's crazy. But very first episode, it's Supergirl's aunt. Oh no. And Arrow, the very first episode, you find out that his mom is involved with whatever secret plot is going on in the background that Oliver's trying to stop. And then in this one, very first episode, Dr. Wells stands up and pulls up a little article, and it says the Flash goes missing, and the date is 2046. So he's like, the future, and I'm just like, why? Why did you tell me all this? Like, I want to be surprised. I want there to be mystery. What is going on? So yeah, I don't know. It was just really weird why they decided to show that so early on in the season. And so the rest of the season, everything he says, I'm just like, I can't trust you, Although, to be fair, they did kind of have a very interesting, I don't know, because in the last episode, the Reverse Flash shows up, and Barry's fighting him, and they're fighting, and he figures out he's not as strong as him, and then they catch the Reverse Flash, and Dr. Wells is still there. And I'm just like, wait, so he's not the bad guy? And then, after all of that goes down, the Reverse Flash gets out, Barry shows up to stop him, and then Caitlin's fiance, Ronnie, shows up as Firestorm and shoots him, makes him run away. And then they're all, aside from Dr. Wells, they're all in Joe's house, celebrating Christmas. And then all of a sudden Cisco's like, I noticed something. Whenever Flash and Reverse Flash were fighting, I noticed some red and yellow electricity sparking off of them. Didn't Barry say he saw red and yellow electricity at his house? And I'm just like, there were two of them. So Reverse Flash is a bad guy, and Dr. Wells may have actually been the good. And then it shows Dr. Wells opening up, and there's a Reverse Flash suit, and there's the thing that he stole as Reverse Flash. I'm just like, okay, no mystery. Psych. You made me think that maybe there's a possibility he's actually the good guy just to show me 5 seconds later, no, he's bad. Why? Why even bring up the possibility that he could possibly be a good guy just to say, just kidding. Gotcha. It's like you really could have been building up that story that, there's Reverse Flash, he's the bad guy. Maybe there was somebody there that was fighting him whenever Barry's mom died, and he's the good guy. And this whole time you thought Dr. Wells was the bad guy because he knows about Flash, he knows about all that stuff. Maybe he was actually the good guy. Did you ever think of that? I bet you didn't. They could have gone with that storyline and then later on revealed, oh no, he's actually Reverse Flash. That would have been interesting. That would have been fun to go along with. But to go, there's a possibility he could be good, and then reveal 5 seconds later that he's actually bad. It's like taking away any possibility. I wasn't sure at that point what they were going to do with Dr. Wells. Before, when Cisco brought up that possibility, I thought to myself, oh, so maybe they're not going the typical route that I thought they were going to go. And then they take away that possibility altogether. It was just really disappointing. But that being said, it does bring up the question, how did Dr. Wells have himself here and Reverse Flash here, and then have Reverse Flash beat him up? Like, he must have some crazy abilities or something, like the ability to be in two places at once. I don't know. We're probably gonna find out later, but like I said, I'm very disappointed about that storyline and how they had so much potential to kind of lead us on in this one direction and be like, oh, got you, and then they didn't take advantage of it at all. So, that being said, other storylines I'm excited to see more of. You've got, like I said, Firestorm is Ronnie, Caitlyn's kind of fiance now. I don't know if he's technically ex anymore since he's still alive. But you've got that storyline, and you've got the gorilla Grood, or Grodd. I think it's Grodd. Anyway, you've got the gorilla that they showed in the flashback where Wells was talking to the general. Seriously. But you've got that storyline, and I know they're going to do something there because I've heard about this gorilla in the show, and I'm excited to see where they go with that. You've got what else? You've got the fact that they've got the stories tying in together between Oliver and Barry. You know, they've got that storyline tying in together. Probably going to see more of them working together. And yeah, I think that's about it. Anyway, so they've done a very good job of setting up the show in the first half of this season, setting up some characters. They just didn't take full advantage of a couple of the storylines, in my opinion. But you know, shows aren't always going to do exactly what you want them to do. I should understand that at this point, but you know, I'm stubborn. I'll never understand. It's just who I am. So that's pretty much it for this first half of the season. Had a couple really good episodes. Obviously, the finale, mid-season finale, was a good one. But one that really did stick out a bit more was Plastique, the woman who touched stuff and turned it into a bomb. It felt a bit more emotional because this is the first metahuman that they experienced who wasn't really trying to be evil. She just had this power that was dangerous, and you know, Wells kind of convinced her to kill the general. And it was kind of like, oh, okay, he's definitely got his own agenda. So yeah, you know, it's very interesting to see. Just based on this is based on watching Legends of Tomorrow, so this part is not really a review of the show because I'm trying to watch it without thinking of Legends of Tomorrow because obviously I know some of the stuff from there. But there are a couple things worth mentioning based on what I've seen in Legends of Tomorrow. One, I know Firestorm in Legends of Tomorrow is Jax and Stein like combined. So I don't know, this Firestorm obviously is Ronnie, but I don't know if Stein is involved at all, or how his powers work compared to the Firestorm in Legends of Tomorrow. Obviously I don't know where Wells got this technology that lets him see the future, but he's talking to Gideon, who is like the guide on Rip Hunter's ship in Legends of Tomorrow. So I don't know where he got this technology, how he's talking to this, you know, this thing supposed to be used elsewhere. I don't know, maybe he created this technology and the Time Masters use it later. Anyway, it's very, very interesting, like some of the tie-ins that I'm seeing now that will be brought back later. So yeah, couple things worth mentioning as far as Legends of Tomorrow goes. But yeah, I really do enjoy this first half of the season. I'm excited to see where they go with it, how much more silliness and fun gets mixed in with some of the more serious moments as far as Reverse Flash. Yeah, it's good. So let me know what you thought of this first half of the season down below. Leave a like and subscribe because I am going to finish this first half of the season. And hopefully the second season and Arrow's fourth season comes out before too long on Netflix or something. So I'll catch up then for those. But until then, I'll see you guys at the next review. Peace out.